Before we get into the review, I would like to explain how I got this device and my relationship with MileC. MileC did send this device out to me for free. They did not require a good review or pay me for one. They just sent out the device for me to make a video on and for my honest opinions. If you have any questions about this process, leave a comment or email me and I'll be happy to answer. Getting right into it, this is the MileC TNV10, a handheld Chinese thermal imaging monocular that retails for at around $450 on Amazon. The device feels and looks okay, but with a quick shake, it sounds like something rattles inside of the device. I believe this is the screen and diopter adjuster, but I'm not quite sure. Despite this, I have had this device bumped around quite a bit in a plate carrier and chest rig pouch, and it still functions fine. The rattling is a bit annoying, but does not seem to get in the way of function. The device is IP65 rated, meaning it is waterproof to light spray. I've used this in some light and medium rain with no issue. I've not tried heavy rain, but chances are it would be fine. The device charges from a Type-C USB charger with no removable battery. It has an advertised 15-hour battery life. I have found it gets closer to 6 to 11 hours depending on conditions. This is a lot of battery life, as this is a handheld device that is used for more of scanning and spotting rather than navigation or a clip-on. One thing to consider is the Type-C only charging. This means that if your device dies in the middle of the field, you cannot simply change out batteries. You would need a portable power bank to get it up and running again. Just things to consider. The TNV10 is controlled by 4 buttons on the top of the device. The button closest to the lens is the power button. Next, the picture capture button. Next, the mode or color change button. And last, the zoom button. These all press nicely, and the power button is a bit harder to press than the rest. I personally really like this because it prevents accidental power on and offs. When the device is turned on, it makes a distinct clicking noise. This noise is the clicking of the thermal shutter and is made anytime the thermal is being calibrated. I was not aware that thermals did this, so it confused me initially. But after some brief research, I found this is completely normal, and most thermal monoculars tend to freeze their image to calibrate themselves. When talking about image, it's important to talk about the display and thermal core specs.
First, the thermal core. The TNV10 has a 256 by 192 25Hz thermal core. This means the thermal sensor can make a thermal image with the resolution of 256 by 192 25 times a second. It has a pixel size of 12 micrometers and 11 millimeter focal length. This all combines to an advertised 600 yard detection distance. In practice, I have found that it seems to be closer to 400-500 yards for detection. It has an advertised recognition or identification distance of 266 yards, which is right in line with what I've seen. This essentially means that up to 250-ish yards you can tell what you're spotting, that being a human, coyote, or deer. Past that, recognition of the heat source will not be possible, but you will be able to know that there is a heat source out there up until around 400 to 500 yards, as I previously said. I'll get to my opinions on this in the opinion section, but if you are interested in a thermal monocular, just consider the distances and capabilities that you may need the thermal device to perform to. The device has a 14.5 by 11 degree field of view, which is pretty much in line with most devices at this price point. While this sounds really small, considering the fact that this is meant to be used at ranges from 50 to 400 yards, it feels completely fine in use. The display is a 720 by 576 LCOS HD display that fits the resolution and the refresh rate of the core just fine. There's a diopter adjustment knob on the side of the display. It makes a nice positive clicking noise and works great. As previously stated, you can change the color settings of the device with the press of the mode button on top of the thermal. There are 5 main modes: red hot, white hot, black hot, green hot, and fusion. I personally like the fusion mode for seeing detail and the red hot for detection. The device accepts a microSD card for pictures. It ships with a 32GB microSD card that can be inserted to the side of the device under the charging port. With pictures only taking up about a megabyte per, that is tons of storage. I know you're probably wondering this right now, but sadly this device cannot record video. Next to the SD port is a micro HDMI display port that can be used to project to a larger display. A larger display can be purchased with the monocular for around an extra $150, or an extra $250 if bought separately afterwards. Once again, to keep this transparent, MileC did send out the display with the device to me for free. I'm not required to or forced to make a positive review on this either. I'm just giving you my opinions and facts about the device. The display is a 4K 30Hz display, which is very overkill for the resolution of the device. It does make viewing much more comfortable, and for me, it makes recording much easier. It threads onto the bottom of the device using 1/4 by 20 threads. The display seems to take two 18650 batteries from a very suspiciously AK pistol grip-like handle. The screen can fold to the side to save some space as well. It uses a standard HDMI cord, so you could hypothetically use this thing for other things if you wanted to. An HDMI mini to HDMI cord is included in the box. In front of the input section of the device are 3 screw holes that can be used to mount a short Picatinny rail. This seems to be meant for MileC's laser rangefinder because I have no idea what else this could be used for. It does not have the option to be used as a clip-on, and a helmet mount for this would be incredibly janky, so I'm really stumped. Let me know what you think this could be used for in the comments. I'm kind of curious to see what people could do with this. As previously mentioned, it has a 1/4 by 20 screw hole in the bottom for a tripod mount or whatever you want it to be for. Last thing to note would be the carrying case. The TNV10 comes with a nice carrying bag that has room for all the accessories and cables. I really like this because it makes transport very easily and just staying organized easier when I'm recording night shoots. It just makes the product feel a bit higher quality. On to some performance showcasing and a view through the tube. I will label some of the heat sources just to add context. Just remember that thermals work very similar in the day and the night, unlike night vision. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment, and on the other end of that, if you notice a mistake that I've made or want to share some thermal knowledge, please leave a comment as well. I read them all and respond to a major majority of them. I'm pretty new to thermal, so I am doing my best, so just share any things that you want to know, because we all can learn from it. On to the performance showcase.
I don't doubt it'll still be good. 4. Just doing the unscripted part of the TNV10 video. Just gonna be like my opinions, considerations. This is a very non-informational section. There will be some opinions supported by information throughout it, but this is just kind of my thoughts with notes, pretty much unscripted. Let's see. Change of scenery, if you're used to the channel, this is looking a bit different. I'm right now in the Sundance, Utah area. One of my first videos, someone commented asking if I live there or from there. I am not, but I am currently there. So let's just get into it. Thermal is really stinking cool, and that sounds so white, but really stinking cool and a huge capability. Kind of moving up throughout the time with the night vision devices I've had, every single one has been like, oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I think the only one I was kind of let down on was the MVG10. If you want to watch my video on that, there's a video out on that. But every single time I've gotten a new device, I've been pretty much kind of blown away from it from a new scale. And same thing with thermal. Thermal was a different type of like, whoa, that is really, really cool. In the same way that you can see infrared light with a night vision device and being like, that's cool, you're seeing heat with the thermal device. So you're gonna be able to see heat radiating off things that might not be visible. It's really, really stinking cool just being able to use it. And kind of going off that, the huge capability that comes with that is obviously thermal detection, right? So being able to see things that you generally couldn't see at night just because it's dark, it's gonna be very, very easy to see things at night. Kind of as advertised, I think in my script I have to go back. You're going to be able to detect what type of thing it is within like 200-ish yards, I'd say. You kind of could figure out what type of animal it is, but you're going to have detection and seeing a heat source out well into 500-ish yards, which is really, really stinking cool. You know, there's a car going by, another car. Yeah, but cause of its huge capability, right? It's honestly a huge what's the word that people use that's kind of funny? It's kind of cringy, but force multiplier. That's like it's kind of like a very, very YouTube word that I'm not a huge fan of just because it's kind of like but it is a huge force multiplier, right? It's going to increase your capability, increase what you can see, increase when you can see things. And it's honestly just such a nice tool to have. Example I had, other day I had, there was a beaver in the lake that was causing quite a bit of property damage. I was asked to go kill the beaver. So yeah, I got my rifle, my nods, which is as you see my Gen 2 Plus analog XD4 tube, and a bridged MVG30, which I'll make a video on soon. It's really cool. But for those that are curious, and then I grabbed that. Within 20 minutes, I was able to see the beaver using the thermal, which it just glowed. I'm not good at words today. Just glowed in the water, right? Because it's pitch black at night. They're nocturnal creatures. Saw them in the water glowing. So once I saw it, I was able to use the night vision to navigate and eventually IR laser on my rifle to get it, right? So honestly, super duper duper cool tool to have. So kind of going off that, right? The thing about thermal is it's more, maybe not more useful, but it's more of a tool than night vision, but it's less fun than night vision, if that makes sense. I would say that for most people, whether you are, I'd just say hunting, thermal will be used more practically than night vision, right? Especially for the price. You can get a good thermal monocular for around $500 that will work great. You don't need any IR light, anything like that. It's just gonna work pretty stinking well for the use cases that you need it for. But it's gonna be way less fun than night vision, right? There's no way to helmet mount this effectively. People have done it, but it doesn't quite work like that. Indoors, it's not really going to work at all for movement. The refresh rate slow. It's 25 hertz. That's pretty bad to walk around and deal with. Like, it's doable, but it's not a true navigation tool. You can't read with it. You can't definitely can't look through glass with it, so you can't drive with it. So understand that, right? If you're trying to look for a nighttime device, understand what your use cases for it is. I'm feeling raindrops. But if you want something to detect animals, let's say you're a hunter, or you just want something to have effective detection, thermal is probably going to be the best device for you. If you're looking for something to move under, to shoot under, I think a night vision monocular is going to be more suited for you. I know that's kind of obvious, but I'd like just to say that. Yeah, there's also really cool tools. I'm sure someone in the comments might mention it, but like bridging thermal and night vision overlay is really cool. You get the best of both worlds, or even better, you can do the E-Code-I to get dual tubes and thermal. Someone probably bringing up the EMVG L3 Harris 50 grand for, but the future is pointing towards thermal and digital overlay, right? Thermal, digital overlay over analog right now. Eventually, I know there's a lot of people that's saying digital is the future. I'm kind of unopinionated on that. I kind of see it going either way, but thermal overlay with infrared sensitive night vision is the future, in my opinion. And combining those capabilities is huge. Next thing kind of off that is, so the TNV10 is a 1x monocular, meaning that I've kind of used this example before, but the amount of magnification is as if you just put your hand over your eye like that and demonstrate. It's like if you're looking through the monocular, you're kind of just going to be seeing like as if nothing, maybe not nothing was there, but as if you're just looking through the tube, right? So that's kind of it. The issue with that is it's not a true 1x, so it feels ever so slightly shifted to, let's see, I can't remember, to the left, yeah. I don't know how to take the left camera, but to the left, right? Yeah. Because of that, you can't really use it for overlay, even if you tried. There are 1/4 by 20 thread mounts in the bottom, so like I've tried attaching it to a J-arm and it technically worked, but because it isn't 1x, it's even more disorienting to if you were trying to bridge these two things. It's also huge. It'd be kind of uncomfortable to use as a monocular, as a helmet mounted monocular. Because it isn't 1x, you do have to close another eye to like kind of effectively use it without tripping yourself out. That does kind of bother me, because I don't know if that's just for my sample size of one. I don't know if it works on other ones, but I had the same issue with the MVG10, and it just gets on my nerves. I'm like, you're so close to having this being just a little bit more effective, just having better quality of life, but it doesn't quite work. Next thing to consider. So as of like a week or two ago when I wrote the original script, these were going for right around $500, $450. I'll put the actual price back up, because these are just my notes, I don't have the script. So once again, specs on this are 256 by 192 thermal core, 25 hertz, right? So AGM, which is, I'd like to see a name brand night vision and thermal company, have their own 256 by 192 monocular that as of 2 weeks ago when I wrote the script and was making notes, well, was being sold for $550. So for like $100 at most, and probably less, closer to $50 more, you are getting a name brand thermal monocular with the same specs as this. Not only that, it does Wi-Fi, and actually not Wi-Fi, maybe Wi-Fi, I'll put that up there as well. It does recording, right? This is a huge downside of this device, in my opinion, is you can't really record. Does that stop you from being effective? No, but as someone that makes videos and thinks an advantage of digital devices is recording, the fact that it can't record is kind of frustrating. Pictures is still cool, of course, you know. I like being able to do pictures, but sorry. But recording is honestly much cooler. So that's just something to consider, right? If you want to spend cheaper, this is cheaper, right? You're getting the same core, same specs. But if you want to get something that's made by AGM that can record and has a bit more features, with a U.S. customer service base, or at least as far as I'm concerned, they're based in the U.S. Maybe not U.S. customer service, but based in the U.S. You're only paying a bit more for that, right? I'm sure it's made in China still, but still, just be aware of that, right? Kind of considering on to that, if you go on Amazon, search thermal monocular, you're gonna find tons of thermals that have 256 by 192, around the same detection range, that have this exact same control set, right? You have your 4 buttons here, a dial for the adjustment diopter. They might not all look cylindrical like this. Most of them kind of have this funny, like, I want to say mortar shape. I've never actually held or used a mortar, but they kind of look like mortars off the top of my head. I'll put a picture up, but it's like there's so many of them. It's almost like it's a grand conspiracy, It's just kind of how these things work on Amazon. Do I recommend buying tactical gear from Amazon? No, but for thermals it seems to be okay, like budget thermals. I'd recommend you go to a dedicated seller, but I would say for budget thermals it seems to be okay on Amazon to do that. Just be aware, do your own research always. Find the place to get the best bang for your buck. But kind of what this leads to is the fact that there's tons of these style devices on the market. They all have functional, good cores, right? Like this core works really well in my opinion. I was able to, it fits my use cases, like the quality, right? The core fits my use cases quite well. It's at a very competitive price, but so is a lot of other options on the market. So what this really comes down to is, I think Chinese thermal cores are good, right? In my opinion, they're gonna work. They're effective. Many people use them. iRay has like the CE5. These are all Cody's. They're fantastic quality. But like, just find the one that works for you, right? If you want recording, if you want that certain refresh rate, look for that and find it in that budget. Do your own research. If you were to take away anything from this video, take away what you learned about this device and put that in consideration with other thermal monoculars, as you should be doing with all devices. But all I'm really trying to say is I think thermal cores from China work great. Don't think they're gonna blow up. I think they perform fine. I've not been disappointed with the performance. It's kind of a lot of just, I feel like, common sense, but sometimes you kind of need to get that out there. These are some things I'm just going to kind of rant about that I want to have happen. So a big thing recently that's been on the market has been stuff like I think the RH25, Sting IR, those multi-use thermal monoculars, right? They are going to be smaller form factor. Ooh, there goes that. This is like the MVG30, right? But they're going to be around this size, I would say. I'll put a picture of them, but they're handheld, smaller, substantially smaller than that other or the common thermal monoculars that you'll find like on Amazon, like the AGM ones. Those ones, right, generally use 640 cores, I think, or I want to say 384, somewhere around there. Those style cores, and those are very expensive cores. They're very, very nice cores, and they generally go for that $2-3 grand-ish price mark, right? And the cool thing about those is they can be helmet mounted, they can be rail mounted as a thermal clip-on. You can just use them as a monocular. They're very, very useful in all roles, right? They're fun thermal monoculars, almost, if that makes sense, right? Like, this is a very cool thermal monocular. It's still really cool to use, but I wouldn't quite say it's fun like night vision. And I don't know too much about this industry. I don't know about the costs of manufacturing and all that stuff. So if someone wants to explain that in the comments, go for it. But I really, really want a budget thermal that's in this form factor, right? This smaller, you can use it as a clip-on, something like that, right? If the most expensive part of a thermal is the core, which I think is right? Why don't we have more budget 256 by 192 small monoculars on the market? I'd be very happy to pay the extra $250, $300 $400 even to get it in a smaller form factor so I could use it as a clip-in. I could use it as a helmet-mounted monocular. I want to see more of those on the market. I think that would be really cool and a really, really effective multi-use tool rather than just a thermal, like handheld thermal monocular. So that's just kind of a rant on that. I really want that to happen. I don't know if it will. I hope that it happens. So we'll see. That's about it. Thank you for making it here if you watched all this. I got a lot more cool stuff coming. I know I already had this in my hand. MEG30 is another big video. I have a Clone Raid X I'll be making a video on soon. There's always stuff to be made right now. For a while, I was kind of in this weird thing. Why videos took long to get out is because I almost didn't have enough stuff to make videos on. And I'm in a very fortunate position right now with just relationships with YouTube and companies where I'm actually literally timed to make videos because of my lifestyle is the reason why it takes longer to make videos. I have tons of videos and stuff lined up to make for you guys, so I'm very fortunate. That is because of you guys and your support, so thank you very much. More really cool stuff coming, and I love your feedback. Leave comments, positive, negative, both are always good. Any feedback to make this stuff better is good. That's about it. Yeah. Oh, 17 minutes. That's just a bit horrendous.